Hello, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading for the week beginning Monday the 11th of September through to the 17th, 2017. So I'll start shuffling cards for Monday and we'll see what the angels have to tell us about what's going to help us get through the day, make good decisions, deal with challenges we face, and generally reassure us. And this card is certainly going to do that. Serenity, this just kind of makes me laugh because everybody in Australia and New Zealand too will know this word serenity from a movie called The Castle. So that's what it's bringing up for me. But what the card's about is stillness. And it's not possible to, for us to go and live in an ashram permanently where there's no distractions and there's no busyness. The reality of modern life is it's busy, and that's probably not going to change. So what we need to do is, instead of finding time, I don't think anyone ever finds time, they make time. We need to make time to reconnect with our spirit and to be still, because it's in those moments of stillness we get the best messages from our intuition. So I'm a huge advocate for meditation, talk about it all the time, but meditation is something that people give up on, or they think, oh, I suck at it, so I'm not going to keep going with it. So, and I've certainly done that. I'm still terrible at it. It doesn't matter. It's not goal-oriented, which is difficult to understand in this society. We're a very goal-oriented society. We only do things we're good at. But the whole point of meditation is you're not trying to reach a certain point. You're just trying to be still and to be calm. So, and there's a myth that you've got to empty your mind. It's not possible to empty your mind, so don't get hung up on that. If that's your goal, you're going to fail. What you just need to do is to just be an observer, really, an observer of what's going on, and just stop those, the train of thought will keep going through your mind. You just want to make sure you don't get onto any of the carriages. So when you find ideas about your groceries or your to-do list popping into your head, you just think, I'll come back to that later. And then just go back to concentrating on your breathing. Anyway, I'm not a meditation expert, so I'm not going to give you tips here, but that's certainly one way we can find serenity. Another way is to be outside among nature. Now, if you don't have a garden because you live in the city, there's always parks around, and it's certainly possible to tone down the amount of noise around us. So look for ways to be quiet and so, and also they're saying this is about the noise in your brain as well as exterior noise. So try to, it's an interesting thing. I've tried this when you try to stop your mind from racing so much and actually go, oh, I've just spent this whole walk thinking about all the stuff I've got to do and all the things I should have done yesterday, and not actually noticed all the things around me. You really notice how there's two separate parts of your brain, and one of them is the one that's normally in the driver's seat, and that's the one that's giving you all these ideas, and the other one is the one that knows, the part of you that knows how to be still and how to listen to the intuition and how to be calm. And that is the part that will observe the other part talking, and you need to make sure that you, where you give your attention is a choice. So don't feel like you're a prisoner of your thoughts. And particularly, the problem with thoughts is they're often fear-based, so we need to be careful that we don't buy into any of the stories in our head. That's probably the chief message from that card, is try and stop yourself from buying into the thoughts, the stories that your brain is telling you, because they're not true. So we'll look at Tuesday now, the 12th of September. This is not going so well. Okay, it told me to stop. Play. This seems like it's counterintuitive given the card we just had, but actually it's in play that we can also really well connect to our intuition. So play is something that adults think they don't need to do anymore. It's for kids, but actually play is something that's important for all people of all ages. And we regard it as a waste of time, but it's actually one of the most productive ways, along with meditation, that you can spend your time. So making time for play, things we enjoy, things when we get out of that thought-driven, process-driven, goal-oriented headspace and into a connected with what's around us, listening, observing, being fully present, and just engaging in a creative process is really, really valuable. So, and it's all about, I mean, we've had some messages about this recently as well. It's all about how we're spending too much time in work mode, that Mars motivation planet kind of mode, go, 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 not enough, well, you know, not enough rest as well, but also not enough time to actually be that whole human being, not a human doing thing. So having hobbies, I don't know, someone asked me what my hobbies were recently and I just drew a blank. I don't know. So it's certainly something that I know that I need to address as well. You know, a hobby, something that you do just for the sake of doing it, not to achieve something or be something. And, you know, obviously I derive a lot of enjoyment from the spiritual work I do, but it's still not a hobby. And so play something like, I used to play the guitar. I'm not, you know, saying that's necessarily something I should go back to or that you guys should do, but playing a musical instrument is a really great way to switch off. There's a reason adult colouring in books became so fashionable a few years ago. It's because people really connected with the idea of doing something that was enjoyable, that made them present and was really relaxing. So, you know, think along those lines. But it doesn't have to be something you do regularly. I mean, ideally it would be something you do regularly, but even something you do as a one-off, like borrowing a neighbour's dog and taking it for a run, anything like that. It could be, think about what you can do today. Don't think about some big, oh, I'm going to do this cake decorating course. Great if you want to do that, but think about what you can do today to actually do some active play and some real mindful activity. Wednesday, the 13th. Oop. Okay, that is not the deck for me. We'll try this one. Ooh, there we go. Leadership. Okay, I talk about this a lot, but leadership is something that we totally misunderstand in our society. We think of a leader as being someone who's really domineering, power crazed, loves to tell everyone what to do, is, you know, all those sort of negative imagery. Actually, what people think about when they think about a true leader is someone who may not be a big, bold presence, who may not be bossy, and I know that's a loaded word, but let's just go with it for now, but is someone who is actually just living their own life purpose and going their own way and is not afraid to do so. Or maybe afraid to do so, probably is afraid to do so, but is going ahead and doing it anyway. So that's what leadership really represents in a spiritual sense. And I think that maybe, you know, probably a lot of the quotes that you would see on Instagram and Pinterest would be along those lines. If you think about a role model, that's really what this card is asking you for, or asking you to think about. How can you be a better leader to the people around you? It's not about being a CEO, although by all means go for it if that's what you want to do. It's about being a leader in terms of your honouring your values, I guess your personal behaviour rather than necessarily your workplace. But if you've been getting pushed to take more of a leadership role at work, this card will certainly be something you can draw on for that. It's about your personal leadership, how you're guiding others, not by, again, trying to influence them, steer them, or direct them in any way, certainly not by shoving your opinions down their throat, but about being your best self, really honouring the things that are important to you and actually doing them, really going after what you want, picking yourself up when things are tough and you fall down. So that's leadership. We'll try again that deck that I thought was for Wednesday but was directed elsewhere. Oh yeah, that's feeling better now. It's Thursday. This is Thursday. Okay. I just second guessed myself. I do that sometimes. They told me to stop and I picked the card and I thought, but is it? There you go. I'm human. I've been doing these cards for years, but I'm still human. I still doubt myself. That's the brain. That's not the intuition. So anyway, the card is positive thoughts create positive results. So the law of attraction stuff, that what you think about is what you attract. Now, I know when I was in a very negative state of mind, I found these messages really tough because I felt that if I was stating something like, there are no good men out there, I thought that was a statement of fact, or that was a comment on what I was seeing. But actually, it was a statement that was creating what I was seeing, not the other way around. So I guess chicken and egg stuff. But it's really difficult because if you were really stuck in that negative frame of mind, you think you're right and you think that, well, if I just say, if I deny that, I'm just in denial and I'm pretending things aren't what they really are. Whereas in fact there is this situation out there. But actually, it's really hard to get your head around sometimes. But actually what you are thinking is what is going to create your experience rather than the other way around. So for example, if we use that there are no good men out there quote, psychic sweep, it's not true. What I was saying to the universe with that is I was creating a situation where there were no good men. So all the men I met were married, unavailable, immature, not on my level. So because that's basically what I'd indirectly told the universe that I expected to see. So, but instead when I started to change that to focusing on what I wanted to attract, that was what I started to see more of. It's not an instant formula and it's not foolproof. There are all sorts of things that can come up, particularly in that love example, there might be fear blocks or self-limiting beliefs that come up to keep blocking you from attracting a result. But as a baseline formula, this is absolutely right. There was a book about 10 years ago called The Secret, which sort of talked about this law of attraction stuff, but it did oversimplify things and it was quite gimmicky, and so it doesn't really resonate for me, but I don't mean any disrespect to anyone who's found that book helpful. That's really great, but for me personally, the law of attraction can be, there can be all sorts of reasons why what we think is not necessarily coming back to us. So, but it's certainly a step in the right direction to make sure that we are thinking about what we want rather than what we're afraid of, or because sometimes we focus on what we're afraid of and we think that's going to protect us from that result, but it doesn't. So for me, in that example, I was protecting myself from I thought protecting myself from the disappointment of not meeting any good men by saying, oh, well, I didn't think there were any out there anyway, or I already knew this was going to happen. But actually that's zero comfort at all. So there you go. What we need to be focusing on is what we actually want. And okay, it might not happen, but we need to make sure that we're at least doing our best to co-create that with the universe. Everything that comes up in our life is a co-creation between us and the universe, because our thoughts create energy and everything's energy. That's why I'm an energy healer. So looking at Friday 15th, it's 15th, I should put that down. Archangel Uriel. Now, I don't know a lot about this particular archangel, but it's all about emotional healing. Okay, and it's also a little bit about forgiveness, which is a bit of a difficult word for people to deal with. I'll read the message anyway and we'll talk about it. Your emotions, well, I'll talk about it. You can talk back if you want. Your emotions are healing, which enables you to open to greater love. I will help you release anger and unforgiveness from your heart and mind. So when I tune into this, they're showing me like blocks that are going on that we're creating with our thoughts. So thoughts are not the same as emotions, but they're certainly connected. So they're basically saying that be careful about how your thoughts are creating your experiences and your emotions. And if you're willing to sit, because sometimes we do this as well by trying to avoid unpleasant emotions instead of actually sitting with the emotion and trying to figure out what it's trying to tell us. So one example would be emotional eating or, drinking. So sometimes we're trying to escape the emotion instead of looking at, why do I feel unhappy? Well, there could be myriad reasons for that. What is it that I need to address here? It could be loneliness. It could be a fear of rejection. It could be a fear that I'm not good enough. It's often fear-based because that's unfortunately the sort of fear-based thoughts are often what create those negative experiences, or at least contribute to them strongly. So, it's talking about healing of the heart that comes from us addressing those blocks that we're creating. So, the words anger and unforgiveness are certainly ways that we block ourselves from, certainly from having peace, but also from achieving the sort of the positive energy that we want to, that's conducive to our ongoing growth. So look at where your unpleasant emotions are, what they might be trying to tell you, how you can better speak to them, or give your body what it's needing, or your basically your inner child, I guess, your soul, what it needs, instead of going ahead with emotions or behaviours that are destructive and leaving you stuck in those unpleasant emotions, or giving you temporary relief but then coming back into a state of more heavy emotions. Saturday. Oop. Practice makes perfect. I don't really like this card, I'll be honest. The reason I don't like it is because it's about patience. And the reason I don't like the word patience is because it's something I really need to learn, as do a lot of you, I suspect. So, I mean, the message is about keeping going with what we're working on and letting you know that even though you're not getting results, or you don't think you're getting results, it's all worthwhile. So, you know, the example, the angel on here is playing the harp. I've already talked about musical instruments, so I'll go back to that. When you are learning a musical instrument, you might feel that daily or, you know, twice day, whatever it is, regular practice you're doing is not actually making you any better. But later on down the track, it will be. So, the problem is we're very geared towards instant results in this society, and this card is reminding us that it's a long, long process, but you need to keep showing up and keep doing the work, and that is what will yield the results. So please know that even though you feel like you're not making progress, you are and you will, so keep going. Sunday the 17th of September. That didn't go well. I've just dropped half the cards. I'm just going to use what's here because obviously I didn't need them. Oh dear. I had a situation last week when I actually posted the wrong card on Instagram. The caption was right because I write the captions usually not long after I've done the video, which may explain why I sometimes get the dates wrong. Thank you to the eagle-eyed people who correct me on that. But I actually posted the wrong image. And like, no one seemed to notice, and I guess that's because people tend to look at the words primarily, but you know, and the words were correct, but I didn't change. I realized about lunchtime when I checked back on it, and the reason I didn't change it was because I figured that wasn't a mistake, it was actually meant to happen. Yeah, sometimes I don't necessarily believe that everything happens for a reason, but I do think that sometimes things like that are meant to be. And also, there's only about 5 or 6 cards on the ground and I can't be bothered. Sometimes there's a reason for laziness. Archangel Michael, that card actually jumped straight out as soon as I talked about laziness. So Archangel Michael is associated with strength, courage and confidence. So, you know, he's a great person to call on when you are, perhaps when you are being lazy and not wanting to do something you need to do. I don't actually feel like picking up the cards was going to be helpful in this situation, but that is a good example of a case where you could ask Michael for help. If you've got something ahead of you, you just don't want to do it. The procrastination situation. Procrastination is a fear, okay? It's a fear of, it can be due to fear of failure. If I don't start, if I keep delaying this, that means I won't screw it up. Or that's not consciously what's going on in your head, but that's an unconscious belief that can be contributing to it. Procrastination can also be about fear of not being good enough, that you're just not going to do it as well as you hope you will, that you're wrong about what you thought or anything like that. Now, what is coming through, very strongly this card is about protection, which is another thing that Michael looks after. He's a really good person to call on if you're feeling afraid. That can be anything from your physical security being at risk, or just being around people that provoke you, or because they're mean or whatever. You can ask them for shielding, you can ask for protection, or perhaps you're in a situation, say at work, where the company's restructuring and then there's a lot of fearful people around for, you know, obvious reasons. So call on Michael when you need help to shore up your confidence, your strength, and just to protect you from negative energies. So he can also help you if you're dealing with negative thoughts, since that seems to be a bit of a pattern in this reading. If those thoughts are due to attachment, say you've got an attachment to, sometimes people who are pessimistic are attached to that because they think it's protecting them. I sort of touched on this earlier. He can cut your attachment to that. and all sorts of things. I mean, there's a lot about this online and on YouTube. There are some clearing meditations. I'd try searching under that to help you if there's some sort of underlying belief to do with why you've got those negative thoughts. So we have serenity, we have play. So there's a bit of a theme towards being more present earlier in the week, and so sort of an appeal to our stress, to lower our stress levels. We've got leadership, positive thoughts, our emotions, freeing negative emotions, or looking at where they're coming from and trying to process and deal with them more effectively. Practice, it's about progress and patience, really. Ooh, a lot of P words there. Archangel Michael, we got two archangels this week, that feels fortuitous. And actually this leadership one features Archangel Gabriel on it, who's associated with communication and all sorts of things. There's always multiple meanings, but I always go for the bigger ones. And we've also got Michael for strength and confidence. So I think there is a pattern towards addressing negative thoughts and emotions, and I also think this idea about being present has come through quite strongly as well. So that's where we're at for the week. I'll put these on my social media. My Instagram is @OneGroundedAngel. My Facebook page is One Grounded Angel. Now, my website is not going so well at the moment. I'm going to get it fixed, I promise. Procrastination. So if you do want to book a private reading or you want to ask a question, it's best to just email me directly, onegroundedangel@gmail.com. onegroundedangel@gmail.com. And there is a bookings kind of tab on my website, www.onegroundedangel.com. The website still works, it's just that particular contact sheet or form or plug-in, whatever the heck it is not working, and I can't figure out why, because I'm really technologically challenged, but I'm going to get it all sorted. It's on the top of my list for this week. So thank you very much for your feedback, for your support, for your love, for your great stories that you send me. I love it all, and I love you guys. Thank you so much, and have a terrific week.